Hi, welcome to Color Speak. It's Janet Huxley, and I'm here with my friend Amelia, and I cannot wait to tell you about Amelia Duran-Stanton. Stanton, I want to say that right. Okay, so I told Amelia ahead of the show that I was going to do my best to intro her, but listen, I have never looked at a list of credentials like this. And I was telling her this morning I was fighting a headache and like I was afraid I was going to run behind. And I thought, I cannot be late for this woman. She has been in the military. So let me tell you, she is the author of The Lotus Within, and that's what we will be speaking about today. That's her book that was just published in January of 2025. And she is a coach, a mentor. She's an active member of the U.S. Army, and she has been for 32 years. And she has had multiple roles. I can't even tell you about her credentials. I think I would mess them up. There are so many. She's a PhD for starters. And boy, does she know how to help us women be equipped in the world to succeed. So, without any further information, I'm going to just toss it to you, Amelia, and have you tell us about you just a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, first, I wanted to tell you that I woke up this morning thinking I cannot miss this interview with Janet either. So I'm like, so we're good on that end.
Yay.
So yes, so definitely, my passion is helping other people, specifically women, especially the younger generation who can learn from us. So I'm really excited about uh, this podcast and your audience. And it goes back to my childhood, living in the Philippines as a child, seeing other women struggle, and also those that are also excelling. It's because they were empowered to do certain things, and then I just brought that to my military career, my research endeavors, and also in helping others. So thanks for having me.
Well, you're amazing. I want everyone to look at the bio because Amelia is quite accomplished and she has some advice for us because I think, what really resonated to me about your message with me, Amelia, is I feel like we women we just take on so much. And I think it's only been in recent years as we've kind of counterbalanced the whole feminist push and we've come back to really embrace who we are and who we were created to be in terms of our femininity and all of that, and really owning our power concurrently, that we understand that our bodies cannot keep up with the pace that men's bodies are designed to keep up with. And I think for a long time, I pushed myself thinking that I could do all of the things that really my body was saying, slow down, girl. But so how do I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about how to navigate that and to be as successful as you are.
Yeah, so you basically mentioned it, is we take on so much, but we neglect ourselves along the way. So the way that I've been messaging is that take care of yourself first, especially very early in the morning, so that you knock that out. You don't have to feel bad at 10 p.m. saying, "Oh, I should have done the things I wanted to do for myself. Now it's 10 and I want to go to bed." So the prioritization of yourself is more important than helping so many people, because when you wake up in the morning and you're zooming, getting the kids ready for school, your spouse or yourself, at the end of the day you burn out so quickly. It's because you didn't prioritize yourself, whether that be taking 5 minutes of your time to, just like what your message is spiritually or mentally, get that exercise done early in the morning rather than waiting till later. So a lot of the things that I message is taking care of yourself first before anybody else.
Mhm. Well, I want to address something that for me is an elephant in the room. And I think maybe this is true for everybody, women. I think for so long, I mean, culturally, it's probably pretty true across all cultures, right? We have this idea, it is ingrained upon us through our societies in which we live, that we are the helpmate, that we are the nurturers, that we are those that stand by on the ready. We're good soldiers. And it's always about the partner. It's always about the other people in our lives and concurrently about the kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just see it as if we're giving, 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 and society is always sort of enforcing or confirming that we're on the sidelines. There were cultures in which the women ate second. We serve the men first, they eat, then we come to the table and we eat. And I think that deep down inside, if we were honest with ourselves, there is sort of like this ingrained nugget deep down inside that has us still adhering to that mentality. So then when we have our meltdowns and we have something that's going on that we need to deal with, I feel like we aren't given the nurturing or the attention by those around us. So we better be looking out for us, which is
Yes,
going back to what you just said.
absolutely. And I think also part of it is even when we entered the workforce professionally, our requirements on the family side remain. I do it to myself as well. Like I go to work, I do 8 to 10 hours, and then I come home and change and do the dishes and clean the house. So some of it is self-inflicted, is that we can't back off and say, you know what, I don't have to do that part today. Let me rest or do that on the weekend. So it's a lot of the prioritization and time management.
So, Amelia, what's step one? I mean, you already talked about the fact that we need to set aside the time, but what if it's difficult for us? Like, what if, so for me, let me just give you an example. I live on
Mm-hmm.
a I don't really have the luxury of, I mean, it's getting better. But let's say somebody like me has to get up and get out and get the animals taken care of. A dog in the house needs to go out and the chickens need to be fed and released for the day and all of the things, you know what I mean? So what then? How
Yeah.
could somebody like that find time if she had young children at home and a husband that still needs attention?
Sure. So one of the things I recommend is a habit takes about 3 weeks to be ingrained, right? Because it'll be painful for the first day, the second day, even that week. But if you wake up 30 minutes earlier than you usually do, I know it's going to be groggy and you're going to be hurting and because you're not used to it, it's not a habit yet. So even setting aside half an hour or fake your mind and say just 5 minutes, I'll get up 5 minutes early, and then just incrementally increase that, because whatever is manageable in your mind, it'll get done. But if you say, I'm going to wake up an hour earlier every morning, it's like, that's never going to happen. I was like, I love my sleep. So if you just do small things that can make a difference in the long run, and making it into a habit in prioritizing yourself every morning, then it'll help everybody else throughout your whole day and you don't feel guilty at the end of it.
So how did you do it? I mean, you were in the military, or you are still in the military, and you've been in for so long. What does an average day look like for you?
It's different every day, and it's also a different on phases of my career. So for example, when I was stationed in Germany with my first child, I already completed deployment in Kosovo and Iraq, and my husband and I were dual military. So a lot of it is the community. It's asking for help and getting help, because if you think you can handle it all and don't need help, that's when it comes tumbling down, because you are not reaching out to get help. And everybody knows you're strong, but you're still strong even when you ask for help. Even it makes you even stronger when you're reaching out, because you want to take care of that child. In fact, that was one of the catalysts of the things that I learned in time management and strategic planning and prioritization, is having a baby that's completely reliant on you. You can't have anybody else take care of it. You're the one that has to feed it, etc., change it,
Mhm.
and you have to rest when they're resting, type thing. So that was a key thing, especially for those mothers out there, that you are raising this child the best you can, but you still need to prioritize yourself. The same thing with while you're pregnant, you may think that you're taking care of that baby. If you're neglecting yourself, it's not going to happen, because they're nourished because of you. They're part of you. You are the main reason that they're alive. So just make sure that you take care of yourself. So that's one of the main things. And then on my second child, uh, I was stationed in Fort Bragg, and my husband was a reservist at that time, but he got activated. We call it the high five. It's like it's your turn
Yeah.
to deploy. So during that time frame, he was deployed, and I was the one with a 3-year old and pregnant. So I had to manage the things that I needed to do for work, and also got help from my mother-in-law who was local. So again, it takes a community, and I had leaders that were cognizant of the things that I needed on my personal side that would also help me excel on the professional side. Because if you're, even the military, if your soldier is worried about their family, they will not be able to accomplish their mission. So that's even more important in leadership, is that make sure you take care of your people, because if you do that, they can focus on what the work they need to do for you.
Yeah, so I get that. What I'm hearing is number one, take care of yourself, and number two, as part of taking care of yourself, make sure you reach out to people. And I
Yes.
think why do you think that is? We women tend to try to take it all on.
A lot of it is, like you said, ingrained in us, even with me. So I come from Southeast Asia, the Philippines, patriarchal. Even our last, we take the men's last names, and a lot of it is that they do all the work. It's because we are supposed to be in the background, helping them successful. So a lot of it is the background things that people otherwise don't see, that we are not being credited for. And also, by virtue of being a woman, you're the one that carries the baby or whatever it is. So that it's more a metaphor of taking care of everything, because you're the one that has to do everything, multitasking, and sometimes things fall through, and then you're the one that ends up being burned out from it.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think, yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, I'm just going to give an example. This is so funny. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I thought, well, I'll probably not say it. Yeah, I'll say it. This is my stupidity. So I'm one of those that has not asked for help as much as I should have.
Yeah.
And I think part of this, I know this is going to hit with someone because it's like you want to, it's a kindness thing, you don't want to impose on people.
Yes.
Like
Hmm.
I hear a lot, well, why don't you have your sons over? Because I have two sons that live in the
Hmm.
area, and but they're both busy. They both have very full careers. One of them, the one that lives closest, has a family. I don't want to. I'm very concerned about imposing on people, so I
Right.
don't tend to ask. And um, anyway, I was somewhere recently, and I heard the voice of the Lord say, "You need to have people help you. You need to
Hmm.
let people help you."
Yes.
So my daughter and I we went to a local furniture store, and we found this hutch we wanted,
Uh-huh.
like it's like a China hutch. I don't know what to call it, but it's not, it's like that, just one piece. And it's just really nice. We were kind of updating, and there was an opportunity to have it assembled at the house, either sent
Right.
and dropped off in the garage. Okay, you know where I'm going with this. This is actually
Yes, I
the
am.
biggest piece of learning that I have had in a long time. And she looked at me, she goes, "Oh, we can do it." I said, "Are you sure?" And there were bells going off in my head. And I said,
Bad idea.
"It's $70 extra. Let's just do it, right?" "No, no,
Yeah.
mom, we can handle it. It's going to be fine." Whatever. Okay. So the guys come, they put it in my garage. That thing is so, okay, first of all, the packing itself was atrocious. I had to pray I wasn't going to cut myself as I used a knife to get all of the stuff off. And it was like multiple levels. And now I'm thinking I have all this trash I have to dispose of. And already
Yes.
see, they would have done that. And then
Yep.
I can't even pick it up. I can't
Yeah.
one end of it. And so I'm thinking, what did I do? So I call the furniture place back. They tell me no. And I said, "I'm sorry. They said, no, there's nothing we can do, kind of thing. So what do?
No.
I hire. Now, this is where it
Uh-huh.
gets really crazy. I hire two movers to come out to move the thing from my garage into my house. That costs
Okay.
$300.
Oh
Okay. This thing is
no.
looking really good at this point. So
Yeah.
they come in, and because they're in, I have them move the old hutch down to the basement and some of the other things
Hmm.
that we need to donate. And um, anyway, uh, they leave, and I realize the legs are not attached. So it's a unit that's
This is
so
going
huge,
downhill fast, isn't it?
right? And you're supposed to attach legs, but now the
Right.
thing is so heavy, there's no way I can turn it over to get the legs on.
Right.
And so my daughter, I saw her after work yesterday, and she said, "Did they get the legs on?" I said, "I didn't ask." But would I have
Yeah.
asked? I mean, here's the thing, Amelia, would I have
Yeah.
asked? I may not have,
Yeah.
because I was so concerned they were working so hard for me. And it wasn't their
Yeah.
job. I mean, it was their
Yeah.
movers. Like
Right.
they didn't need to be putting the legs on the bottom of, anyway, now here I sit with this thing that I have to get the legs on.
Just staring at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the point. Why did I do that? Why
Yeah.
was I was so foolish? And it's time and time. It's going to be a lesson for me time and time and time again. Get the
Yes.
help. Don't feel like you have to do everything, and I know, if you're trying to save a few dollars, just pray about it, all the things that take place. But I think it's going to
Hmm.
be emblematic of my need to seek help because you
Right.
don't have to do everything yourself.
Yeah. So I also learned a couple of things from what you mentioned. One is people will always give you advice, right? So your daughter was giving you advice. We can do this. We got this. But then it didn't work out. So that's one thing to say that ultimately, whenever different people are giving you all kinds of advice, it's your responsibility to make the decision to take the action. So will you listen or will you not listen? So you need to take the ownership of whatever decision you made. So basically what I'm saying is don't blame your daughter and say, you told me, blah, blah, blah. And
No,
look what
it's all
happened,
on
right?
me. No, I
Right.
agree. It's
Yes.
all on me because I had
Yep.
the warning voice in my head.
Yeah. See
It
that?
was telling
Yep.
me, my
Spider
guardian
sense
angel
is
or whatever,
tingling.
Holy
Yeah.
Spirit or whatever, it was telling me,
Yeah.
not a good idea. You
Yes.
need to just pay to have the guys bring it in, assemble it, and take all the trash with them.
Yes, that's right.
And
And then
that's money well spent.
the other lesson is it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You just have to learn from it. So just don't do that again when you buy another hutch and you're like, should I? I'm making the $70 investment and removing all the hassle from it, right?
Yeah, we need to hear those things. We just do.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's all on me. And it's funny you say that because I was even as I was getting ready this morning, I was thinking, that is such a great lesson. Thank you, God.
That's right. Think positive.
Well, one of the things I got halfway through
Hmm.
beautiful book, and one of the things that really stood out to me was the obituary writing. Tell me about that.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, for background as well, it's not just, oh, you're going to do an obituary, but part of it as well is looking at what your ikigai is, but basically your passion, what are you good at, what are people going to pay you for doing, what do you enjoy, and then the other is the childhood part, right? Because you're doing retrospective learning about yourself, pretty much. Some people have traumatic events during your childhood, but there are certain things that happen in your life that brought you to where you are. So that's the retrospective. So the prospective one is looking in advance. When you're being eulogized, you're dead pretty much. So your obituary is writing on what kind of legacy do you want to look back on that people will remember you by? Because some of us, do you know who your great great grandparents are? I was like, actually, I don't know who they are. So what are you going to leave a legacy? And that's part of the reason why I wrote the book. Is it's an enduring legacy that I wanted to have for my daughter, who's actually the artist for the inside of the book. So she was part of it as well. So the obituary writing, although it may sound morbid to some people, it's you reflecting on your life. You can even say at age 90, instead of an obituary for those that don't want to write an obituary, what do you want to look back on the things, because you have control now to make a difference in that future self that you can action today.
So we talk about this a lot in our household,
Mm-hmm.
legacy. What
Yes.
legacy are you leaving? And when you are selfish and
Mm-hmm.
self-absorbed
Yes.
and, just greedy, that is a legacy, unfortunately. And
Mm-hmm.
none of us wants to be remembered that way.
Right.
The moment we need to take those things into consideration, I think. I thought
Mm-hmm.
the obituary was really good. And I think, yeah, for someone who may feel like they don't want to put it in a past tense kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, even just saying like I reflected, I thought, what would I want? What would I want to be known for? And the first
Yes.
thing that came to mind is she loved Jesus. Well, then I
Mm-hmm.
thought she loves Jesus. And
Right.
you
So
can
it's
write
more
that
of a
too.
present.
So, and then the other thing I liked about it was it does really allow you to be reflective. There was there's a pastor here locally that said something recently that I really took to heart. He said, go to the end of 2025.
Uh-huh.
Now look back across the year.
Yeah.
What have you accomplished?
Right.
That is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems so simple, but how many of us have really done that? So it's kind of like the
Right.
same thing that you're talking about is just
Yes.
taking a look back on your life and hitting those highlights. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to accomplish?
Yes. So now that you brought up that annual backwards planning or reverse engineering, what I encourage audiences and readers as well is even do that 30 years in advance. And people sometimes look at me, I don't know what's going to happen then. Well, you don't have to, but you have a way to shape it by just thinking about it, writing it down. It doesn't have to be in pen; it can be in pencil. So the messaging that I've been given is when I retire from the military and I'm a civilian doing whatever I want, I wanted to teach online in my pajamas. Like dressed like this is it's good, but underneath I'm in pajamas and flip flops and drinking coffee. But in order to do that, I knew I needed a degree in education. So that's why I did a PhD in education, is because my end goal after the military is to continue teaching. So even something like that, because you have to take action now to get those done, and then backwards planning to 15 years, and then all the way down to 3 to 5 years short term. And then when it comes down to 1 to 2 years, that's when you actually have to start actioning things. So that's what you mentioned, that somebody said December 2025 you're having a Christmas party, and what do you want to look back on did this year. In fact, the way that I do it as well is three chunks of quarters. A lot of the things that I'm working on is travel. So I want to travel every time there's a holiday weekend. I wanted to go somewhere different. So that's one thing that I know what I'm doing for the year. And what could that be for you? So whoever is listening or watching this, is you have to look way out there. It may not be um, set in stone, but you can have an idea of what your life feels like to you when you're at a certain age, and then backwards plan, because there's the things that you can do now in order to prepare for that.
Yeah, it is. It's very powerful. And I think even just the thought process is,
Yes.
but just speaking it, okay, at the end of
Hmm.
2025, I would like to have
Yeah.
time Z. And then
Yeah.
you've almost put it into motion just by,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
by
And then
exercising.
the other thing is, I have colleagues that we meet every month. So one of the things that I've learned as well, I'm not the expert on everything. Even younger officers teach me about self-care. So one of the officers said, "Let's meet up every month," and we linked up. And whenever I a monthly massage. Afterwards, we meet up. We look at our calendars. We look back 3 months. We look advanced for 3 months and say, "What are you working on? Is there anything I can help you with?" So even that communal environment of helping each other, even just talking through that, does that make sense? So there's certain things that even in that small group that I'm continuing to build and help each other out in things that can happen for this year. So that's been very helpful.
So one of the most poignant things that happened to me when I was raising my kids, we have eight, and I
Hmm.
homeschooled five of them.
Yes. Hmm.
And I was in the throes of it because we were a blended family. So
Hmm.
I was busy running some kids into the city, and we live in the country.
Hmm.
And that was a 45-minute drive one way. So I was an hour and a
Yeah.
half in the morning and an hour and a half in the afternoon. So it's 3 hours away.
Return. Yeah.
Still have goats that needed to be milked, things that needed to happen on the farm, homeschooling that
Yes.
needed to happen, extracurricular activities that were incredible.
Superwoman.
Incredible. I
Yeah.
had figure skaters, I had ball players, I had ball players of all kinds, and I had a competitive swimmer. And it
Hmm.
was, you guys, it was a lot.
Okay.
I mean, and I kept
Yes.
having people tell me, you know what? I'm really concerned about you. And it was so funny. It was the older women. It was the older women that I met. Like not my mom, because I knew my mom
Yeah.
was, but it was the older women that would say, honey, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep going on like this. It's going to hit you at one point.
Mm.
And I was thinking,
Yes.
oh, as long as I can, I'm going to do it, and
Yeah.
I was with someone that just really expected that too, and it's kind of a drill sergeant as well, and had every
Hmm.
expectation that I would perform as well as he. And
Hmm.
it was so much all of the time. And I just felt like I think that those women are right, is my point.
Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
it absolutely does catch up. But here's my point. I had this woman, oh, she was so precious to me. She's since passed away.
Hmm.
But she told me, she said, because then we started thinking about all the things to do here. Like I was grinding my own grain, I was making my cheeses, we drank the raw
Hmm.
milk. We planted an orchard, we had a garden, we had we even processed some of our own meat. And she said, you don't need to do it all. You just need to
Yes.
barter with someone. Offer your eggs to someone for a basket of apples or your milk for, this other thing. And that always stuck with me because I
It's
thought
amazing. Yeah.
that's the way we used to operate as an agrarian
Yeah.
society, right? I
Hmm.
mean, if we could always conceptualize this, we don't have to do it all. We don't have to be
Yes.
self-sufficient. We're not meant to be self-sufficient. We're meant to help one another and to work together. And it is so delightful. And then the way the Lord blesses, I mean, I remember one time her husband came over one night and he says, "Do you have any eggs by any chance?" And I remember thinking, I have about a dozen left. That's all.
Yeah.
And I have all these kids, right?
Yeah.
He asked for my eggs. So I gave him the eggs. I thought, okay,
Yeah.
don't worry about it because I know that I don't have to worry as long as, we're all taking care of each other, right?
Hmm.
After that, I am kidding you not. I had so many eggs, they were rolling off the counters. I had no place to put them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it
Blessings, right?
helps,
Yeah.
right? Knowing if you work together and you trust the process and you trust a good God, it just all comes together. So
It
I
does.
love that part of it. Yeah. That's probably too much information, but that's all of the laundry list of Janet's mistakes.
We're learning more about you now. But yeah, see, it's just amazing of the things that catalyzes you to think, right? Because it's sometimes you don't see it for yourself because you're in the grind of doing all the things that you're doing, and you think you need to do it all, and then somebody notices. So those are the blessings when they actually come to you and say, take a pause and rethink. And I think that's my role in the book and also the workbook along with it. It's not just one of those books that you just read and then be done with it. It's actually one of those things that you can read over and over that will help you immensely, and then pass it on to your bestie or your daughter, or even men can benefit from it. So
Mhm. I also think men can benefit from understanding women better
yeah.
and not
Yes.
having those expectations that they keep pace. Their hormones are different. Women
Hmm.
can't keep pace with men, and it does come back around if you're not careful. Um,
Yes.
the whole concept of the lotus, your book entitled The Lotus Within. Talk about that because
Yeah.
I've heard it, but then it kind of escaped my mind, and then I just kept
Yeah.
hearing it again. It's just so beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah, so the lotus flower, it's known for growing in the mud and even without sunlight. So that's the thing that I wanted to uh, message is that be a lotus flower, bloom where you're planted, wherever you're at. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have credentials. Because I started out as enlisted, and you see my credentials now, but I bloomed where I planted along the way and with the help of others. And then the other thing is also it's an acronym. So I was brainstorming with a colleague and I said, I need something catchy. So with the Lotus, it's Life of Timeless Unbound Strategies. So the book has a lot of strategies in there that are timeless because it's not just me that are teaching you these. These are the things that I learned throughout my life and my career that I'm bringing in this book so that you can benefit from everything that I've learned throughout my career. And I want you to flourish wherever you're at. So you don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of education background. It's just following because it had from beginning to end. It has a workbook and lessons in there, and just follow it and review it again even after you're done. And I think it'll immensely help you in getting back on track if you're off track, or just helping others as well if you don't think it's a lot of the things that you probably know already, and then you teach somebody else to do it.
Well, perhaps you mentioned this because, as I mentioned, I only got halfway through the book. But
Yeah.
one of your what was one
Well,
of your
let's finish it now. No.
yeah. I love the lotus picture in the beginning. That's so beautiful. And you said your daughter was your artist. That's amazing. Um,
Not for the cover. The cover is actually an artist from the publisher, but everything
okay.
else inside is her.
Oh, nice.
She's a student at UTSA as an art major. Because every time I submitted something from online and gave credit, they said you need to contact these people and get permission. And that's what I did. I was like, "May I use your photo?" And then they would not return response. And I had an epiphany. I was like, "I have an artist. Let me go call her and say, hey." Can you draw these? And then I was like, oh my God, those are better than the ones that I was submitting. So
Yeah.
it worked out. Yeah.
I have a daughter who's an artist too. She got that from my dad,
Yeah.
who was an architect. It didn't hit me.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I
Yeah,
could
same
draw a stick
here.
figure. Ridiculous. And I
Yeah.
remember my dad used to say to me, he was so funny. He would say, "Oh, not my daughter. You can draw." And I said, "No, I can't." But
Stick.
yeah, I feel like I need to get her on it too. But Amelia, what was one of your biggest, I mean, obviously I've shared a couple of mine. Do you have anything that stands out that you wish you had done differently that you learned from? As we talked about earlier, I can't remember if it was on or off air, we talked about just learning from our mistakes.
Yeah. One is that focusing on yourself. Because there were several times where I would be like, for example, we get bonuses in the military, and you have to submit at a certain time. And I was helping so many people. I was like, I got this. I'll help you. I'll help you. And then all of a sudden, I look at my pay stub. I'm like, what the heck happened? Where's my bonus? I said I forgot to submit, or I neglected myself. So that's just a main example of when you're helping somebody else. Look in the mirror. Does that person that you're looking in the mirror need the help that you're giving to other people as well? Because like you said, we overextend ourselves in other things, and then don't look at the things that we need, that we can do for ourselves first. So that's just one main example, and a lot of the things as well is delegating. Because to me, I'm type A. I want everything 100% my way. But you have to realize that in order to accomplish more and to have a more cohesive team, you have to delegate certain items on your list, even though it may be 80% of what you will give to it. And also, you all will also be surprised on the ingenuity of what other people have. So just give them a problem set and have them decide on how they're going to solve that, instead of you doing it all. So I'm just surprised of all the things that I'm learning from other leaders as well along the way whenever I do that. So those are the main ones that I think are worth sharing, that have helped me along the way.
Well, I think one of your resounding themes to my mind is don't be afraid to put yourself first and don't apologize for it. Don't feel any shame for it. Um, I understand what you're saying. That again resonated with me, another story. But when I first
Mm-hmm.
published, I became part of an authors group, and
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of requests for reviews all of the time.
Right.
And it got to a point where one morning I got up and I felt like my heart was racing because I felt like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I've got to do all these things. And I promised I would do this review and this endorsement, and I've got to read this and all the things. And then one day it just kind of crashed on me when I said, sure, I'll take an advanced reader copy and I'll look at your book, no problem. Well, all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
all of the requests that came in associated with that, well, and you have to
Yeah.
go to Goodreads and you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do the other. And I just thought, I'm out.
I
I'm
should have just
out
said
because
no.
my oxygen mask is not on right now.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right.
And
Yeah.
I think again, it gets back to the way we're conditioned as women. Help everybody,
Mm-hmm.
help,
Yeah.
put your neighbor first, love God first, love your neighbor like yourself. But we miss the part like yourself, as
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
As
We have
yourself,
to love
right?
ourselves and we have to
Yeah.
take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves so that we have
Mm-hmm.
enough oxygen in our lungs that we can then help others. And I
Absolutely.
think for a long time that's been part of it. And we feel shame when we do things for ourselves.
Yes. And we also learned from other generations on how they did it. And we think that's the way that it has to be done, but that's not the case. It's like you were not putting forth the effort in changing things, but we have to, because otherwise, like I said, you get burned out, or you're not having the quality of life that you deserve, pretty much.
Mhm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And then talk about the Japanese term. Is it Iyagi or how do you say that?
Ikigai. Ikigai is basically putting together your path, because it's like a Venn diagram. So it's four things. It's what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and also what people are willing to pay for it. It's also the things that you probably, whenever you wake up in the morning, what wakes you up in the morning that you're excited about, instead of, oh, I'm going to wake up and do whatever. But it's something that you're excited about to get up and do. And for me, it's that teaching, and also helping other people. And that's different for every individual. That's why there's an exercise in the workbook for you to figure out for each one, to answer them, so that you can identify those. And more than likely, these are the things that you learn throughout your life. I mean, you don't wake up or be born and say, "You're Amelia. You're born now. Your passion will be X." It's not. So whatever you have learned along the way. And also, sometimes I've seen some mentees that have struggled with exercise, like, I'm not good at anything, or I don't know what I want. I don't. Well, ask other people,
Mm.
or think about what people come to you for. So to me, a lot of it is people come to me for advice on what they need to do next in their careers, or what education programs they should be in. So I already know that people come to me for certain things, and I enjoy, and also find it valuable in giving that advice to them, and they're thankful for it. So that's a great form of knowing what your legacy will be, because that's important to know beforehand. Because if you're thinking of a legacy of whatever it is, it has to come from what you're passionate about and what you want to leave for future generations.
I really wish we had a term like that in the English language. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really important. That's probably
Right.
something in the Japanese culture that everyone is aware of and talks about. It's sort of innate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because so my kids are really into Japanese culture as well. I mean, that anime and everything. And we went for a visit in Japan for like a day, when en route to going home to the Philippines, and everything is so clean. Everybody's so polite, and everything's what we call dress right dress. Everything in its place.
Mm.
So a lot of it, I think we have a lot to learn with other cultures. Like the United States is a melting pot, but it's also a value added. That's why I love traveling, because whenever you travel to different locations, you learn their ways of life that you can incorporate in yours. And I think that Ikigai concept is one of the big ones that I continue to go back to.
Mm. So my son and daughter-in-law are taking their 10-year anniversary trip to Japan in the fall.
Yes.
And
Wow.
so the other grandma and I are going to be sharing babysitting duties, but they're absolutely thrilled.
Oh my
So,
God,
yeah,
enjoy.
I've never been. That
Mhm.
sounds great. Well, Ikigai needs to be something that we think about here because really it's about the way God wired us. And so then therefore we don't have to I don't feel like we need to struggle as much,
Mhm.
just it's like what you said, bloom where you're planted and bloom how you're planted
Mhm.
and what you've been equipped with, your seeds, because I feel like
Yes.
if we're all honest and we're just following the pursuit of our heart, it's going to align especially well with what God has planned for us. And it all
Yes.
comes together in that Venn diagram to produce the greatest fruit and happiness and the greatest legacy. So
Yes.
it's fascinating to me how that works. I've been through it too, like because I feel like I said for many years, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. And
Mhm.
by and large, it still a little bit feels like that as I sort through because I just feel like I've done so many different things, but focusing in on and just taking the time to meditate and to be in the presence of God and just say, okay, so what is it that I enjoy? And I feel like his voice
Right.
asks me, well, what is it that you enjoy? Let's talk
Right.
about it, because, and that's when I just really started pulling, I'm still writing and doing other things. Journalism, I just don't like anymore.
Uh-huh.
I just said I really like talking to people. I like
Right.
hearing their stories. So, did I ever think this, even just having a podcast, that wasn't on my
Yeah.
radar. To see how if
Uh-huh.
it's almost like a little breadcrumb trail.
Yes.
Each one up at a time and just figure, okay, so what is it that I really like to do
Mm-hmm.
that
What
way?
fills your cup? And also it's called the zone of genius because there are certain things that you're good at but you don't enjoy. Like I'm really good at typing. I don't know, like, but I don't enjoy it all the time. So I'm really fast and efficient in admin work, but I don't want to do it all the time. So there's
Right.
certain things that you're probably the best in the world for, but you don't enjoy it. It's just because you're just proficient in that. So those are the things I think from my generation and even earlier, we had to do what we could just to put food on the table type thing. But my kids, like for example, my daughter being an art major, I wouldn't have thought about being an art major at my. I was like, how are you going to pay the bills? I even joke with her now. You're going to be eating ramen for the rest of your career, and she's like, I don't care. I'm doing what I love. So I think I love seeing that in my children that our generation worked so hard that they can have the luxury of choosing what they want that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
So
I grew up
yeah,
that way too. I
yes,
was going to be a doctor. And then all of a sudden at the
yeah,
last minute,
yeah,
I pulled out of pre-med school,
yeah,
went to
yeah.
be a speech comm major. And, actually, it's funny. I just finished a novel I'm hoping to put out soon.
Mm-hmm.
And my protagonist is an aspiring artist whose parents are like, no, you can't be an artist. Like,
That's right. You got
that's
to
okay,
pay the
kiddo.
bills.
But what a beautiful talent and expression. And there's just so
Yes,
much attached to that,
yes,
like you said, bloom where you're planted, and all of
yes.
the good things are going to spring from that. It's going to be just a
Mhm.
field of wildflowers. I love it.
Yes, and what she told me that whenever because a lot of people see her artwork and they compliment her on it, and then they say, oh, I wish I could do that, and she keeps telling them you could, but if you just know how much work I put into them, you'll realize that they're this good because I practice a lot, pretty much is what she was saying. It's so whatever it is, whatever your passion is, it's not you're not going to get good at it, you're not going to enjoy it if you don't do it at all. That's why it's important, even though you may be in a position right now that you have to pay the bills by being, for example, for us, I have an example of a colleague. When she retired from being a PA, she became a baker. I was like, when did you ever know that you wanted to bake? And she's like, all my life. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So insert your passion in between having to do the things that you have to do so that you can have a profession, but don't wait until retirement to be being that baker that you've always wanted to be. So that's a part of the lesson uh, of of lessons learned from other people as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I know that we need to wrap up soon, but I want to say
Yeah.
something. I just felt like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. You may enjoy something, but it may not be your calling. Like baking was
Right.
mine too. So when I was
Yeah.
back in San Diego, one of my employees had a plaque she put on my office door that said number one
Uh-huh.
cookie baker. Bake a mean cookie. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
I always have cookies in the freezer ready to pull out to give people.
Hmm.
I love cookies.
Yes.
I do think I bake fairly well, but it's not my thing. You know what I mean? Like I would
Right.
stand in the kitchen baking all day.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so I've never heard anyone say it that way, differentiating between
Hmm.
it. In other words, you don't want to say with for someone like me, well, I love cookies, so I guess I must be a baker. It's not that
Right.
simple,
It's
but
not.
you
It's not.
can follow that little trail I talked about, I think.
Hmm.
That's what you show us, which is
Yes.
really fun. Well, what else do you want to tell us, Amelia? I feel like we didn't even touch on your incredible list of credentials. My I'm in awe, just in awe of everything that you've been able to accomplish. Well, tell
Right.
me, like, in a nutshell, how have you been able to accomplish all that you have?
Right. So I think even as a child, I enjoyed education, learning. Um, in fact, I have memories of myself being 3 years old and going to school with my grand aunt. Because when I was growing up, my parents were in the States, and my sister and I were in the Philippines.
Mm.
She was with my grandmother, and I was with my grand aunts, and one of them was a third grade teacher. So even as a 3, 4-year-old, she would bring me, because it was in the Philippines, so there's no rules of what you can and cannot do. And there's this 3-year-old under her desk, just watching her teach. And sometimes I'll take a nap underneath there. So even when I would come visit, people from her class will remember, oh, you were that little girl that would sleep under the teacher's desk. I'm like, yep, that was me. So even that environment of teaching, and also I have um, grand uncles that were instructors, principals. So education was always ingrained of the importance, because the more educated you are, nobody can take away your education. So that's what's ingrained in us in the military as well. You need to meet certain requirements to get ranked as far as education, but just the passion of looking for things that I can uh, that can help me. For example, even now, you see all those credentials, but I also completed executive coaching and also women's leadership. That the military gives us funds. If you take advantage of them, they're pretty much free. So it's just taking advantage of the things that are given to us is the key. Because I even have an example of my mom telling me of one of her friends. Their son joined the military and then came back with nothing and had to live at home again. I was like, that was, she was telling me this as I was joining. I was like, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. So it's your mindset of
Oh,
what
yeah.
you want to do, and the writing, the writing down, the journaling, because it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more you think about how important certain things are to you, the more you will execute and get things done.
That's a good example. I think once you have determined what it is you are going to do and what you're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not
Right,
going to be sidetracked or thrown off by
right.
anything else, any sort of
Mm-hmm.
obstacles, you will surmount them because you
Yeah,
know what your purpose is, you know what your destiny is. Yeah,
exactly.
good. Yeah. Well, how did you get into the military? Why did you enlist to begin with?
Yeah. So I think it was our senior year. My sister and I are in the same grade. Even I'm one year ahead in the States. So our mom pretty much told us that she was going bankrupt. So because we had hopes of going to college, we were submitting, and I also played sports, so submitting, but not good enough to get a scholarship. So in the end, my sister and I looked at each other like, because they were recruiters already. We would see them in the quad. It's like a eating area at our high school, and each had a table: Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines. So we talked to all of them, and that's when we decided to both join the military. So we did the delayed entry program because I wanted to get an education, travel, serve the country, and things like that. So it worked out, and I signed up for 5 years. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, Amelia, what the heck are you doing?" That same thing, people will tell you the things that they're afraid of and
Right.
ingrain in you that, oh my God, I'm scared for you type
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I was bawling my eyes out the day before basic training, and then day of basic training. And I was like, I got this. This is not going to be hard. I've had harder chores by my grandmother growing up than this. So, and they fed us 3 times a day. We had clothes. We didn't have to worry about what to wear, and had place to sleep. So it was really good.
Wow, that is so good to hear. So you
Yeah.
didn't, I have visions of like boot camp and, drill
Uh-huh.
sergeants, and it wasn't that hard. I mean,
Oh, it's hard,
yeah,
but it's manageable. Because I mean, it's again, it's your mindset.
yeah, it
You can
is.
either be that son that came home with nothing from the military and then blame the military for it, or you can be the one that either you joined for 2 years, 5 years, or all of a sudden 32 years. I'm like, oh my God, it went by fast because you have to enjoy what you're doing. And it's not really the location, it's also the people that you're with. And I'm Filipino, so there's Filipinos everywhere. There's a party, there's a karaoke, there's lumpia and pancit all over the world wherever I went, and I was pretty much taken care of. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Oh, this is very cool. Well, as you're talking, I just think, yeah, that's so true. Just to bring it back to, just even for us civilians, I
Mm-hmm.
remember before I had my first baby, I heard all these horror stories. This could happen, that could happen,
Yeah.
the other thing could happen. Well, I had it. I mean, I gave birth 6 times.
Yeah.
Six of my 8 children are biological. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and never, I mean, in the very beginning, I always said, okay, these aren't going to happen to me. I'm going to have the best time. And I really, really did. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process. It was a beautiful
Uh-huh.
thing.
Yeah.
I taught fitness classes at 24-hour fitness through most of it.
Wow.
I was a 12-year instructor there. And so nothing really slowed me down because it was
Mm-hmm.
something I embraced and I wasn't exposed to
Yes.
any of the other stuff, right? Of all the
Yeah.
possibilities. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I think someone needs to hear that. That was very, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew, hey, you know what? This is not going to be my story, my reality,
Yeah.
my life, and I'm going to live it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Right.
what you're saying. And I think, if we could all just live that way, have that goal in mind, not to be
Mm-hmm.
deterred by it, bring in help as
Mm-hmm.
you've talked about. That I think is the most, probably, if I could highlight anything in our conversation today,
Yes.
you need to bring in help and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, all of it. Just take care of yourself first, and then you can
Absolutely.
help take care of the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Amelia, anything else you want to leave our audience with today before I let you go?
Yeah. So, Janet, thanks for having me. This has been a rewarding experience just talking to you and learning all the things that you've done. I was like, man, you're
Oh my
amazing.
gosh, I'm so
So,
sorry to bring that in. I tend to do that. I'm really but
no, it's
I
awesome.
just
Yeah. So
wanted to be helpful.
so we both get to know each other along the way. So yeah. So just basically the main thing is people will tell you anything and everything or criticize you for your decisions, but own it. Own whatever. Pick a decision, do it, and then move out with it. So it's very important to be decisive on the things that you want to do and what your life, your legacy will be. And you can help a lot of people along the way as well, just being an example of the things that you're doing. Because I even surprised of the things that people tell me after the fact that said, ma'am, you encouraged me when I saw you win that award, that you did all this work for research, stuff like that. And I didn't even know that at the time. So you never know who gets a twinkle in their eye just for you being you. And I'm sure your audience are the same way, and that's the least reason why you're successful in what you do. So thanks for everything that you do for all of us.
You're so kind. I want to get back to your obituary that I read in your book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I think about all of your credentials, Amelia, and the
Mm-hmm.
thing that stood out for me was in your obituary, you said you want to be remembered as someone who cared about others and helped others. And
Yes.
that is so important. All of our worldly accolades aside, that's the most beautiful legacy you can leave for people.
Yes. Did you make an impact, even in one person? I think
Yeah.
is it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, my lotus friend, blooming, blooming in blood.
We're all blooming. Just pick a color. Be your own lotus.
I love the color imagery. Been
Yes.
such a pleasure to get to know you. And everyone go out and get the book, The Lotus Within. And yeah, do you have contact information you want me to share?
Sure. So I'm on different social medias under Pinay Army PA. So I'm on X, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And I also have a website, Amelia DS, which is my initials, ameliads.com. And I do a blog every Sunday that actually covers the book. I'm on the time management section right now. So every Sunday I post one, and it has all my contact information in there as well.
Okay, that's great. And that's at
Yeah.
ameliads.com.
www.ameliads.com.
D.
It's a
Okay.
website. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get the Pina Army thing. I didn't get that.
Yeah. So
PINA.
Pinay, Pinay is a colloquial term for a Filipina. So because I'm from the
Oh,
Philippines,
okay.
that's a
But
female term. Pinoy is a male. So Pinay and then Army and then PA is my physician assistant.
oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
See,
So it has a
we are such
meaning.
a physician assistant. My goodness gracious. All right. That's awesome. I love that. That's so beautiful. One of my dearest friends growing up was a Filipino girl by
Mm-hmm.
the name of Margaret de Guzman. I just really
Oh,
lost touch over the years, but I was
she might be listening to this and reach out, right?
that'd be so great. Yeah. She was just like the most popular girl at school because she was so bubbly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just I think she was a cheerleader and knew everyone. I think she was
Mhm.
voted most, I don't know, something, but anyway, she
In
was
terms of the lotus within, whenever you find overseas workers, usually they're Filipino, so they're blooming where they're planted, and we're all over the world. Either they're nurses or engineers, so a lot of it is ingrained in us to help people. I mean, just in my culture alone, is helping others is even not mandatory, but it's a joy.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, we were on a cruise, just one more thing. We could, stretch it out, but we were on a cruise, a bunch of us a couple of years ago. And of course, everyone that helped us was Filipino, and they were so
Yeah.
kind and
Uh-huh.
so gracious. And yeah, just love the Filipino people.
Thank you.
Lovely people.
We
Okay.
love you back.
I love you. Thank you so much for being with us. And to the
Yes.
rest of you, thanks for joining us today on Color Speak. I hope your world is filled with beautiful blossoming things in your mud and lots of color. Till next time.